guys, it's Steph with Tiny's Garden, and today I am taking you through to show you the difference in my Snapdragons that I have pinched or cut off the top of versus the ones that I have not. Let's go and take a look. I'm going to show you a bed that has been pinched every other plant, a bed that has not been pinched at all, and a bed that has all been pinched so you can see the difference. Now, Snapdragons are a cut flower, which means you can cut them to use in a vase for an arrangement, to use in a bouquet for selling, to sell to florists, or just to keep them for yourselves. There's many things you can do with them. However, what I want to show you is why we pinch them. And I'll be the first to say, last year I didn't pinch all of mine and I couldn't really tell a difference, but I think it was because it was in a small space and with not a lot of flowers. This year I'm growing over 200 Snapdragons and I can tell the difference for sure. Let's take a look here. Coming down here into my first raised bed, you can see some are much taller and upright than the others. This one I've pinched every other in this bed. Now the reason you pinch is to get more blooms. How does that happen? Well, this is an example. You can see the base of the plant, and if you come in closely, you can see where I pinched it there, right through the center, and 2 new stalks have grown, which means there's now going to be 2 stems shown here versus 1 stem shown here. So pinching does in fact produce more blooms because you have more stems and thus more blooms. Now, one thing with pinching is it will delay your bloom time a little bit. And I'm going to show you the difference between one right here. Put my hand here so you can see this. This one has not been pinched. It's 1 single stem and it's actually got a bud on top right now. So this is going to bloom before my pinched ones that have not budded up yet. So because of that, some people will go in and pinch every other so that they have some earlier blooms and some later blooms. I believe that's from Lisa Mason Ziegler, her Cool Flowers book. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's where part of that theory comes from, which makes sense because you probably want some blooms earlier in the season too. So this is the bed that I did that in with every other, and I'm going to show you what that looks like here. So this up front is the Costa apricots. Everything besides this one right here is an Opus 3 I stuck in there. But you can easily tell which ones I've pinched and which ones I've not. So if we start up here, we have not pinched, pinched, not pinched, pinched. You kind of can see a pattern here. The shorter ones are the ones that have been pinched, and you can see 2 stems coming from them. So they're not budded up yet, but they are growing, and all the ones with 1 have a bud on top. Each and every one of them. So that's your difference in timing. Your pinched Snapdragons are going to bloom a bit later than your Snapdragons that you've not pinched if you're choosing to leave some unpinched. On this end of the same bed, they're just simply shorter, but the same theory is here, every other. So this one is 1 single stemmed, that's not pinched. This one is pinched. If you look above, you can see that 2 stems are starting to grow from that. This is a different variety. It's Day and Night Snapdragon and Rembrandt Snapdragon. So they're growing just a little differently than the Costa apricots down there. Now this bed back behind me is not pinched at all except for 1 plant that I planted a little later that I had pinched earlier on to replace one that wasn't doing so well. All of these are not pinched. These were planted later than this garden bed I just showed you, so they're a little behind, but you'll certainly be able to tell they're all 1 stem and unpinched. Okay, as we look through here, you can see all are single stemmed. I purposely left them like this. I really wanted to see the difference, if I could see a difference this year. and I absolutely am. This is the only one here that I planted later that's pinched, and there's 2 stems starting to grow there. So am I going to leave these unpinched? No. Now that I've showed you the difference, I really wanted you to be able to see if there was an exact difference between pinched Snapdragons and Snapdragons that aren't. And I'm for sure seeing it this year. I hope this helps you see that there is a difference. I am going to come through, and I think I'm doing every other in this bed because, again, I want some early blooms, and some of these are far enough along it shouldn't be long before they bloom. Now we're in the backyard, and these beds, this one and the one back here, are both filled with Snapdragons. I came through yesterday and cut off all of these, so I want to show you what it looks like when they're freshly pinched. So here we go. Coming in, I simply came to about the second set of true leaves and snapped right there, and you can see that's a fresh cut. Again, just freshly cut. You can see the main stem I cut, and now a stem will start here and will start here and will grow. Now some of these, like this one, I did cut. I should have probably cut it lower. Ideally you're coming in above the second true leaf-ish, but they'll still be fine. Growing from here won't be a big issue. Now this back bed back here has not been. So again, this is an example of one that is not pinched. You'll see their length and one single stem. They're not as tall as the ones in front because these were planted later, but you can see all single stems here in this bed, and I think I'm gonna come in and do every other here as well, pinching them back, having some early blooms, and then several later blooms with more stems from the pinching. And lastly, here's a different bed where I did plant some Snapdragons that I pinched in the end of, and this is a really good example of what it starts to look like after it's been pinched for a little while and 2 stems start to grow. Okay, if we zoom in here, you can see right through the center is where it was originally pinched, and there's 2 distinct stems starting and have already put on some true leaves on each side of that. That's going to grow into 2 mature stems, producing more blooms. So in conclusion, for me this year, I'm doing a lot of every other pinching. Some beds I've pinched completely to get more stems and more blooms. It's been an awesome year being able to see a true difference. Because again, I don't know if it was just small quantity size from last year that I couldn't tell much of a difference, but being on a bigger scale now, hands down, can see the difference. In future years, I will likely pinch every single Snapdragon. As far as timing on when you can pinch them before you even put them in the ground. I would say when they're around not even 6 inches, you can probably go 3 or 4 sets of true leaves. Once you see that, come in and again pinch right above about the second true leaf or even first true leaf, and you'll start to see new branching occur. So it can happen fairly early after you've planted and sown your Snapdragon babies. So think about what works best for you. If you want some early blooms, maybe you're gonna leave some of them in single stems and not pinch half of them. I'm curious, let me know your thoughts if you've grown Snapdragons, especially for a while, what your preference is. If you pinch every single one, if you do every other, what your combo of choice is for pinching when it comes to your snaps. Please comment below and let us all know so we can hear about it. And that's it for this video, everyone. I hope you got something out of it. If so, please like this video. And also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe to follow along here with all things garden in Zone 5B in the Chicago suburbs. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.